So before we continue with the video, I want to talk to you guys about where I got this shirt from, and you probably guessed it, jerseyfifa.com. They have kindly sponsored today's video and also sent me a load of free shirts for me to check out myself, and I can now really vouch for the quality of these products. They have loads of shirts to offer on the website, so if you are interested, head to the link in the description down below and check out Jersey FIFA for yourself. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel, where today we are back talking about Manchester United in the Europa League against Real Betis. So we're going to get straight into it, straight into the game, because it's a little bit of a weird one to do. When you're already 4-1 up, you know, you've got quite a comfortable lead. It's very weird how you approach the second leg. The way that it seemed, though, that the second leg was approached by both sides was that Erik ten Hag had the idea of, let's go out and kill this game quite early, hence the strong starting 11, which we'll see in a second. You know, Manchester United played quite front-footed football at times, but Real Betis seemed to have the same idea of, we need a goal early, so, you know, we need to get back into this game, let's get a goal. And what that does when two teams are really going for a goal, one's going for the kill, one's trying to get back into the game, it makes for quite a chaotic affair. A lack of control in the game, a very open game, and that's exactly what we saw. And, you know, I don't think Ten Hag will be entirely pleased with that, but let's kind of look at some of the reasons why that happened. And we'll start with Manchester United in possession. So, as we'd expect, Manchester United did try to an extent to build the ball out from the back. And when they were doing this, we saw Betis pressing in a 4-2-2 or a 4-4-2, whatever you want to call it. But the wingers this week were much higher than what they were last week, as well as the front two. And what this does is it just closes the space for Casemiro in the middle here. But also, basically, it means there's no free pass for De Gea on the ball, and even whoever receives possession next, there isn't a free player on the ball. We can see that. Because Casemiro looks like he's a free man, but, you know, these Betis players are close enough, the back line is high enough, that this isn't really a free space. He looks free, but if he does receive the ball, he's going to quickly be pressed. So Betis are squeezing nice and high up the pitch and making life difficult for Manchester United. And you know, as we know, De Gea isn't the best ball-playing goalkeeper, so it does lead to turnovers. However, still, Manchester United dealt with this reasonably well. And that was because, whilst both centre-backs were being pressed, they weren't being pressed well enough, or intensely enough almost, and Maguire and Lisandro Martinez both have the quality on the ball where, if you aren't really going to go press them properly, they will just step past you. And we saw that several times during this game, where Perez would be coming across to Maguire, and Maguire just steps forward, infield with the ball really well. And Lisandro Martinez done the same on the other side, and that was the best way for Manchester United to break the press. Having done this, you know, we'd see probably Martinez stepping forward down this side, the left back is going to tuck in a little bit just to be safe. Now Casemiro can become the free man. And this is why the game became so open. Because Manchester United could get the ball into Casemiro quite easily in these areas, because of the centre-backs progressing the ball. What this now does, is it gives Manchester United this 3 versus 2 situation, with Casemiro, Fred and Fernandes all they're gonna outnumber that Real Betis midfield too. And this is why so many teams don't use midfield twos. But Real Betis did, and it allowed Manchester United to get at them. And what we instantly saw was now, you know, that's what I'm talking about, Manchester United going for the kill. We very quickly saw Manchester United get into this position, let's get the ball forward as quickly as possible. Whether it's Casemiro playing it forward, Bruno Fernandes, Fred, they're looking to get the ball forward very, very quickly. And, you know, it just became so chaotic, because every time Manchester United get the ball, they're trying to kill the game instantly. It felt like United were trying to score within 3 seconds at times. They were playing hot potato in the midfield. And it didn't really work. Where it did work a bit more was when they were able to get the ball out wide to Pellistri or Rashford and kind of get them 1 versus 1 up against their fullback. Pellistri in his first start for the club, I thought he done pretty well. It wasn't the most complete performance, but it's not going to be in your first start, but I thought he looked bright. Does some of the right things. He looks like a traditional winger, if you know what I mean, trying to work himself that bit of space out wide before putting a cross into the box. Started really brightly and had a decent game. Rashford on the other side, a bit more of a mixed performance. He seemed to be very, very keen to get at the Real Betis defender, which I absolutely love to see. But at times when he was dribbling, he almost seemed to be moving too quickly for his own good and kind of losing the ball, leaving the ball behind a little bit at times. And Manchester United genuinely was just really poor in possession first half. Too long, too direct, too quick. And again, what this game really showed was Manchester United's need for a new midfielder. We know what Erik ten Hag wants long term. He wants a team which controls the ball, controls games, controls the tempo, stops the opposition kind of getting into games. Manchester United don't have midfielders that can do that at the moment. They really needed a player in this first half to just put their foot on the ball, take a second and pass it sideways, or even just beat their man and dribble, anything. Just someone to take a few extra touches on the ball. Instead, what we saw was Bruno Fernandes playing passes forward very quickly. Fred had a very poor game in possession, I thought. Weghorst weren't really offering too much up front. Casemiro a little bit loose in possession at times, although as the game went on he got better. But kind of all round just a lack of quality on the ball. We can see that Manchester United in the counter-attack are going to make this 5 versus 4, which puts them in a really deadly scenario. However, they just lacked the quality. From a tactical point of view, again, Ten Hag's kind of got them into good areas. They were just far too rushed. You have to slow it down. You're 4-1 up. You don't need to kill the game in 3 passes. Just slow it down a little bit, control the tempo, manipulate the ball about the pitch, move the opposition into areas that they don't want to be. But no, Manchester United just kind of hit it early. And it didn't really work for them, and as a result it led to a lot of turnovers, which means Real Betis can then get the ball. And Real Betis done well on the ball, because what they have is technical players. Which means, when you play a technical side, no matter how good their system is, or how good the general approach is, when you play against a team with technical players, particularly in the midfield, they have an ability to just keep the ball away from you. Real Madrid are the best example of it. Their system isn't always the best, but they've got such quality in midfield that they can just hold on to the ball and completely take the sting out of your team. That's what Real Betis done well. I wouldn't say their system was great, I'll come on to it in a second, it was decent but not great. But they just had that quality in midfield on the ball. They did slow it down a bit at times, and that gave them a sense of control in the first half. Now, one of the ways that they'd done this was by asking Rodriguez to drop deeper. Not literally forming a back 3, but it was close enough, if you know what I mean. He was there or thereabouts. This allows the fullbacks to push further forward. And with Manchester United, kind of being sucked into pressing in a front 3 with Facundo Pellistri and Rashford coming narrow, it meant that the 2 Real Betis fullbacks could be the spare man. And then when the ball went wide to them, the midfield would then come forward with Rodriguez and Carvalho, and it allowed Real Betis to progress the ball, and then, having progressed the ball wide, they can then come inside, combine, and then again create overloads. Because what we saw all game was Fred and Fernandes being caught just too high up the pitch. And Carvalho, Rodriguez, Jalquin getting into these areas, they did have some real luck. Casemiro was constantly outnumbered. If you look at his kind of defensive performance, it might look like he didn't impact the game enough. But it's very difficult when you're being 2v1 or 3v1 at times. The Manchester United team, the front 3 was played through way too easily, with the midfielder dropping in deeper. But then as Real Betis moved forward, there wasn't enough intensity from Manchester United, enough desire to really get back ball side. Also, kind of systematically, they were caught too high. And again, this puts Real Betis into some really, really good situations. They're, again, quite technical, this Real Betis team. They're good at keeping the ball. The problem is, they lack that bit of athleticism. So, let's say Manchester United are in this same opportunity, right? When you've got someone like Marcus Rashford, he has that pace to just destroy defences. Real Betis really lacked that. Someone who could really hurt the Manchester United defence, especially with Maguire in the team. He's not the quickest on the turn, doesn't cover a lot of ground. Real Betis just didn't really exploit that. And that was the story, honestly, for a large period of this game. 2 teams kind of playing through each other pretty easily, probably too easily. Getting into good situations, but just a real lack of quality on the ball. Manchester United came from playing too quickly, too fast, too long. Real Betis, it was just kind of their level, just a lack of quality, a lack of athleticism again moving forward, a lack of threat, a lack of cutting edge. And it made for a really poor first 45 minutes. I think Ten Hag's half-time instructions would have been along the lines of, let's just slow it down a little bit, we're not playing a hot potato here, we're trying to play football. And that did show in the second half. So if you asked me why did Manchester United struggle in the first half, but then look quite dangerous, quite threatening in the second half, I would say it's because they slowed down, they weren't as direct, took their time on the ball. Casemiro suddenly taking more touches on the ball, looking much better, taking control of the game. Manchester United, they looked so much better when they played just a little bit slower. They don't need to go forward and kill the game with every single pass. And obviously, Rashford scores that beautiful goal, which was, what a finish. You've got to see the angle from behind where it swerves out. It is such a good finish, it's incredible. After the miss he had just a few seconds earlier, to then put that in the back of the net is just pure quality. It's a good mentality. The reaction after a bad miss, let's be honest. It was a bad miss. But then to kind of, shake that off, get going again. This is how Marcus Rashford is different to last year. Last year, if he had missed that chance, his head would have dropped. The fans would have been on his back. Not this year, though. He just reacts and does this, puts the ball in the back of the net from, 25 yards, something like that. Really, really good finish. And that was enough for Manchester United at the end of the day. That puts them 1-0 up. And then we saw some subs. We saw Fernandes come off. We saw Rashford come off. Did we see Fred come off as well, I believe? We had Alanga on the pitch. We had Jadon Sancho on the pitch. We had Sabitzer on the pitch. And what this done with Sabitzer and Sancho in particular was just gave the team, again, players who are going to slow it down a little bit, take the extra touches, take that little bit of extra care on the ball. Ten To be fair, when Bruno Fernandes was on the pitch, he was creating chances. United should have scored more goals in this game. They got into some really good opportunities where, the players don't just finish them. So we shouldn't be too critical of Bruno. But again, when these subs are made, you've got players who are just going to take a little more care of the ball. And when you take that extra bit of care, your quality shows against a team where, Manchester United are the better team. They have the better players on the pitch than Real Betis. When you just slow it down, take that bit of extra time, you can improve that. And honestly, I think that was a big difference between the two halves of football. It's nothing massively tactical, from an analysis point of view. It's nothing too exciting. It comes from United just taking the time a bit of composure. They didn't show that in the second half, far too direct. And this is something that United have to learn. I think, again, long term, we will see it under Ten Hag when he has a very different squad. In 3 years, this starting 11 will be so different. It's unbelievable. It will be unrecognisable because there's too many players in his team that want to play hot potato transitioning football, and that will win you football matches. Absolutely, that sort of football will win you football matches. I mean, last week we saw it in the 4-1. Quick football, quick counter-attacking football will win you a lot of games over the course of a season. If you're trying to win, though, a lot of cups, league titles, Champions League titles, you have to be able to control games more, and that's what United aren't doing at the moment. However, we shouldn't be too kind of fussed about it from this particular game, because United, like I said, were 4-1 up already. This puts them 5-1 up. They're comfortable. They're through to the next round, which is the most important thing. We've seen already this week, progressing through the Europa League round of 16 isn't for everyone. It's not easy. But Manchester United done it. They done it reasonably comfortably in the end. They avoided suspensions. I think they avoided injuries as well. So in that aspect, it's a box ticked. They kept a clean sheet. They're through to the next round. Rashford scored again. It looks good. But just keep in mind when you're watching future games, just keep it in the back of your head that at times this team plays forward a bit too much. Because it is something that we're seeing which does need to be corrected, but it is difficult when you don't have the personnel to do it. All in all, though, that little complaint out of the way, United were a better team over the 2 legs. They deserved to go through. They did go through, so you can't really ask for much more than that. So that is all I have to say for today's video. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments down below. What do you think is the problem with players playing too forward, too quickly, too direct, too long at times? Let me know your thoughts on that. Why is it happening? How can it be fixed? That's a really interesting potential idea. What did you think of the performance in general? Who do you think will get in the next round? Will you be watching the draw? All of that, let me know in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and yet another Manchester United win this season, and I'll see you in the next one.